Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are building something super practical and fun, a simple to-do list application using Python. This project is beginner friendly and will help you practice working with variables, lists and dictionaries, functions, conditionals and loops, and exception handling. Plus, it is a great way to enhance your logic building skills. This is going to be a menu-driven project which will provide us options to add a new task, view all tasks, remove a task and mark a task as completed. We will break this application into smaller manageable parts and also add user-friendly prompts and error handling for a smooth experience. So let's get started. We will begin by creating an empty list to store the tasks and their status. Let's name this list as todo_list and I will simply assign it an empty pair of square brackets like this. So this list will store the tasks and the status, whether the task is pending or it is completed, that will be stored inside this list along with the name of the task. In the next step, I am going to define a function to display a menu. So let's call this function as menu, and here inside this function I will print my first statement which says *** main menu. This is the header of the menu, and after that in the next line I will print my first string which is add a new task. After this I will print second string which says view all tasks. Then my third string will be printed and that says remove a task. Fourth is a string which says mark a task as completed or done, and then we have another option, the last option, which is to exit the application. So this is going to be the menu, and since I want this menu to be repeated several times, so I will be using a while statement over here. This is a while loop. While the user does not press option number 5, until then I will keep on repeating this menu. So while true, and let's indent these lines. Alright. So this is like saying until the user chooses to exit this application, the menu will be repeated on the screen and the choice of the user will be stored inside a variable called choice, and I will prompt the user to input his or her choice by providing this user-friendly prompt which says enter your choice. Now before moving on, I want to remind you that the input function in Python accepts a string by default. So that means if I press 1, that is my choice is 1, then it will be input as a string instead of an integer. If you want to convert this choice into an integer value, then in that case you will have to use the int function outside this input function in this way. However, I prefer to use string only. Okay, so here I type if choice is equal to 1, and this 1 is taken as a string since it is surrounded by these double quotation marks, and this refers to my first choice which is to add a new task. So in that case, if my choice is 1, then I will call this function called add task. Note that this function has not been defined yet. I will define it later on. For the time being, I am just building the logic of the application. Alright, let's move on to choice number 2, which is to view all tasks. Once again, I put choice number 2 inside these double quotation marks, and let's say the function to view tasks is named as view_task. Then my next choice is to remove a task, and this is choice number 3. Let's call this function as remove task. After this, the fourth function or fourth choice is to mark a task as completed. So let's call this function as mark done. And then my next choice is to exit the application by pressing 5, and here I will call this exit function, which is an inbuilt function used to exit an application. But before calling this function, I want to provide this message to the user that I am exiting this application, and this is just a message for a smoother experience. Lastly, if the user presses any other option which is not there inside this menu, then we will display one message which says invalid choice and then try again. Alright, so this menu has been created, and with this my function definition is also complete. Before defining all these functions, let's once call this function menu and see if the program is working correctly or not. And yes, we have got our menu, but none of the functions will work since we haven't defined them yet. And if I exit this application, only this will work. So I press my choice as 5 and I'm exiting this application, and that is working for the time being. Now let us proceed by defining our first function, which is to add a new task. So I am going up here and I will hide this code. Alright, so let us begin by typing the keyword def followed by the name of the function, which is add task. Inside this function I will define a variable called task, and then I will prompt the user to enter a task. Whatever value user will enter will get stored in this task variable. In the next line, I will append this task which the user just entered along with its status. Inside this empty list, we will type here the list name, which is to-do list dot append. This is an inbuilt method used with lists to insert a new item into the list. And now I am going to store the task and its status in the form of a key value pair, and here my first key is task and its value will be the task which is just entered by the user, followed by the second key which is status, and then we provide the status as pending. So initially the task will be pending, and when we will choose option number 4 of the menu, which is mark a task as completed, then we will convert this status to done. Okay. After this we will print one message here which says new task added successfully, and this is the function. Let's run it once. So here is our menu, and now if I press 1, I can enter a task. Let's say do laundry. This is my task, and here I get the message new task added successfully. So guys, we have successfully created one function definition for add task. How cool is that? Well, let's not stop here and let's proceed with our next function definition, which is to create a function to view all tasks. So here once again we will begin by typing the keyword def followed by the name of the function, which is view task, and inside this function first of all I will print here a message which says your to-do list, and then after this I will check whether my list is empty or not. If it is empty, then I will print an appropriate message, otherwise we will iterate over the list. So first of all I will check if the length of my to-do list is equal to 0, that means there are no items inside the list, then in that case we will print this message no pending tasks. Else we will iterate over the list using a for loop. Note the code that I am typing here. For index comma task in enumerate. Now enumerate here is a new function. I will just tell you about it in a moment. So I will type here to do list comma 1. Now in the first glance this line of code might look a bit complicated, but it is not difficult to understand. Basically we are using a for loop, and I am saying for index comma task in enumerate to do list. Now this enumerate is an inbuilt function which automatically generates a unique identification number, so you can use enumerate for any iterable. Alright, so in this case enumerate function is assigning an index value or a unique identification number to every task inside my to-do list, and the index value for the first task will be 1, and that is the starting value 1. After this, the second task will be having index value 2, third task will have index value 3, and so on. So this makes it easier for us to track the tasks at the time of marking a task as completed or at the time of removing a task from the list. In this case, I am simply printing an F string which says index followed by the name of the task, and I will be printing every task along with its index value. Let's now run the code. So in this case, I enter my choice as 1. So I will add a new task here. Let's say I want to do laundry, and new task added successfully. Once again I press 1, and let's say my second task is to buy groceries. Once again new task is added successfully. Now if I want to view all the tasks, so here is my output, your to-do list, and then index value followed by a colon, task name and status for the first task, and same for the second task. Okay, let's exit the application. And now I want to make this output look a bit more cleaner and organized. So here I will type /n after new task added successfully. This will add some space after this line is printed on the screen. And in the same way, I want to, instead of displaying the task as a dictionary item, I want to extract their key value pairs. So let's say I type here my first key, which is task, and then the status of the task. So I will put here a hyphen and once again curly braces, task. One by one we will print all the task names along with their status on the screen. So here the second key goes, which is status, and after this, before ending this function, I also want to add a /n, that is a new line character, to add some space. Now if I run the code on the screen, I have to enter my first task. Let's say it is buy groceries. New task added successfully, and after that we have added some space. Then I add another task, call Sam at 5 p.m. New task added successfully, and then comes view all tasks. So here your to-do list shows, and now it is looking more cleaner. So we have index value, task name and status for the first task, and same for the second task also. So this is looking better now. So till now we have completed two functions. One is add task and another is view task. Now it's time to write the third function definition, which is for remove task. So once again we will go up here, and this time we are creating a function to remove a task. So here we will type the keyword def followed by the name of the function, which is remove task, and before removing a task from the list we will have to ensure that the list is not empty. So in that case we will check if the length of the to-do list is equal to 0, that means there are no items inside the list. Then in that case we will display an appropriate message saying list is empty, and otherwise we will prompt the user to enter the index of the task that the user wishes to remove, and I will store that task number inside a variable called search index. That means we are searching the index value of the task that we want to remove from the list, and that will be given by the user. So here I am supplying an input function with a prompt which says enter the task number that you want to remove, and since the number will be an integer, so I need to convert this string to integer, because by default the input that we provide for input function is in the form of a string. So we need to convert it into an integer value. Also note that the index value of the first item is by default 0. The list will be always having 0 based index. That means the first element will be stored at index value 0, second at index 1, and so on. But in our case we are displaying the values from index 1 instead of index 0, and that is why we will have to subtract 1 from here. And now we will check if the search index lies in the range 0 to the length of the to-do list. So here search index should be bigger than or equal to 0 but less than the length of the to-do list. Then in that case we will be storing the removed task in a variable called removed task, and in order to remove a task from the list we will have to use the pop method. This is a default inbuilt function that is used with lists, and it will remove any item based on its index. So here the index that I am using is search index. So whatever index value user enters, let's suppose user presses 1, so this 1 will be entered here, it will be converted into an integer value, then we will subtract 1 from this 1 and it will become 0. That means we are removing the first task, and then we will check if this search index 0 lies in this range, it will be there, and here we will pass the index value 0. So the first item will be popped from the list and that will get stored in this variable. And now we can display which task has been removed using an F string. So here I am displaying one message, task removed is, and then we will pass here the variable name removed task. Otherwise, if the search index lies outside this range, then we will print another message which says invalid task number, and this will be the message displayed on the screen. Let's run the code and see what is the output. So in this case, if I directly display the list, it is empty, there are no pending tasks, and if I want to remove any item, I press choice number 3, then the list is empty. So appropriate messages are being shown on the screen. But now I want to add a new task, let's say buy groceries, and then we can view the task inside our list. We have only one task which is buy groceries and its status is pending. Now if I want to remove it, then I will enter my choice as 3 and enter the task number that you want to remove. So I want to remove task 1, and task removed is buy groceries, its status was pending. Okay, if you want to only display the name of the task and not its status, then make sure to pass here the name of the key which was task, and let's now check it again. So if I now enter a new task buy groceries, and then if I remove the task, so once again I want to remove 1, so task removed is buy groceries, no status is being shown. Alright, the code is working fine, but I want to add this code inside a try except block so that in case some value error occurs, then it should be smoothly handled by Python interpreter. So I will just type here try outside these lines of code and accept value error. So this value error will be handling any kind of error. If there is some kind of wrong input entered by the user, then we will display this message which says please enter a valid task number, and that's all. So this is the message, and let's run the code once again. So in this case I add one task, let's say do laundry, another task, let's say buy notebooks, and after that I view my task list and we have 2 pending tasks. I want to remove task number 2 which is buy notebooks, so I will enter its task number, and task removed is buy notebooks. And now if I view it, so we have only one pending task. Once again I want to remove a task, and let's suppose I enter any invalid, so here we get a message please enter a valid task number. So this is how our code is working, and it is working absolutely fine. So guys, we have completed 3 function definitions. Well done. And now we are going to type the last task definition, which is to create a function to mark a task as done. Once again we will type here def, let me scroll up, and here okay, the task name is mark done, and once again I want to remind you to add 2 line space before and after the function definition. And now we can continue. Basically we are going to select a particular task, and if we complete it, we will change its status from pending to done. That is what we are going to accomplish here. And once again, this will be a search index based thing. So same thing will be repeated, which we have already done inside remove task. We will first check if the list is empty. If it is not empty, then we will proceed by asking the user what is the index of the task that you want to mark as done, and then we will check if the search index lies within this particular range 0 to length of to-do list. And after that, we will change the code over here. We will change the status of that particular task from pending to done, and otherwise we will print invalid task number. And once again, if user enters any invalid input, then also we will display an appropriate error message. Since our code remains almost the same, I'm just going to copy paste these lines inside the mark done function, and here we will change 2 lines. So here I will access the task whose search index has been passed by the user. So to-do list and then search index, that means we are reaching that particular task for which the index value has been passed, and for that task I will change the status to done. So here we will type done, or you can type complete also, that is also okay. And after this we will print one message which says F, and then we will pass an F string which will be like this, task, and then we will pass here the name of the task. So this is to-do list, then pass the search index, so that particular task, and we are actually talking about the name of the task, so pass the key task here has been marked as done, and here it should be enter the task number that you want to mark as complete. So that you want to mark as complete, we will have to pass this inside a pair of curly brackets. So let's pass here curly brackets. So let's rerun the code, and here I type my first task as call Sam at 3 p.m. and now I enter my choice as 2 to view the task which is pending. So this task is pending and I want to mark it as complete, so enter the choice as 4, then enter the number of the task that you want to mark as complete. So 1. So task call Sam at 3 p.m. has been marked as done, and if I now view it, so status is done. If I want to remove it, then enter the choice as 3 and enter the task number which is 1. So this task has been removed. View the list and there are no pending tasks, and we can finally exit this application. So in this project, we have successfully created a simple to-do list application in Python that allows us to add tasks, view tasks, remove a task, and mark a task as done. Along the way, we also used Python concepts like lists, dictionaries, loops, functions, and error handling. Now it's your turn to practice. Here is a project for you. Create a shopping list manager which allows the user to add items to the shopping list along with their quantities, view all items in the shopping list with their quantities, update the quantity of an existing item, remove an item from the list once it is purchased. To make it even more interesting, try adding a feature to sort the list alphabetically or by quantity. Programming is all about practice and creativity, so keep experimenting with new ideas. If you have learned something new today and enjoyed this video, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated. Happy coding!